Hi guys, this is part 3 of my building an ultimate woods ball gun series, and today I'm going to talk about cutting out EMC body kit from Planet Eclipse, designed for ETHA to fit Empire Axe, and how to cut it out properly, and how to fill the eye covers from ETHA. So, just a side note, another mini mod there. The micro gauge from this one, I believe, Empire, yeah. Or sorry, invert. Yeah, that's invert, same thing. Micro gauge, so it's a little bit smaller compared to the factory gauge. I don't know, doesn't get in the way really. I don't care if there was a huge gauge like this. I don't know why what people complain about, but nice and tiny, saves me 5 grams of weight. All right, back to EMC. So let's start, and I'll show you what you need to remove with the Dremel tool. So the first thing you need to get is obviously a Dremel tool, and you also need to get a bolt cutter for the Dremel tool. So it looks like just a standard round shaft and about a 1/4 inch wide, really rough ball-shaped cutter. They're about $5-6 at the hardware stores. So you want to set your Dremel at about maybe 5 to 10,000 RPM. If you cut any faster, you're gonna actually melt the plastic and it's gonna spray everywhere. So you want to go slow. You do want to have some sort of vacuum cleaner hose pointed at the spot to suck the dust out, because this one is, I believe, glass infused nylon, and the dust from it is not really good for you. So let's begin. First thing you gotta do is use your bolt cutter to remove these partitions here, starting from here. You can see it on camera. You can pause it if you're doing this mod, and start cutting them, grinding them off all the way down to about here. The reason why you're doing this is so that this groove, or this ridge rather, can sit in this groove. So the other thing you need to remove is 4 partitions here, right at the kind of top corner of the eye cover hole. And this is for your for the detents from the axe to sit in like this when they're in the gun. And the last thing you need to do is remove, see this detent here, leave that alone, remove the bottom one here on both sides, and you might need to grind this flat slightly to accommodate for this bulge on the grip. Depends if you're using a stock grip or red line grip, because I believe the dimensions are slightly different, but I'm not 100%. But basically, do put your gun together and make sure when the halves are assembled together that you don't have a huge gap between here and here. But out of the box, the EMC kit will not close properly. I mean, yeah, you can probably tighten up the screw and make it close around the grip on axe, but you're gonna put a lot of tension on your metal inserts here, and they eventually over time they're gonna start coming out. So so that's it. Remember, so you cut it out here, you remove this, and you remove that. That's on the inside. On the outside, there is a screw about here on the factory body kit. So what you need to do is put your axe in the body like so. The back portion here should be butted up against this plastic here. So the bolt lock should be butted up against that piece. As you can see here, it fits just perfect. No cutting needed. And you will see on this side that your plastic the hole is gonna end about here, because the ETHA feed neck is about here. So you're gonna start cutting this, and so you're gonna lose 1 screw on your body kit. So let me put this together. Okay, there you go. So the original body kit has plastic to about here, so you're removing this about 1/2 inch So be careful, go slow, grind this flat, grind this flat. I use the hacksaw to cut to about here, and then break it off. And then while I use the hacksaw to actually cut here straight down, instead of doing this, instead of cutting that blade sitting that way, I actually had the blade sitting that way. So I cut it that way, cut it that way, cut it that way, that way. And then you use a Dremel tool with a flat, like a cylindrical cutter, to flatten this out, make it nice and neat, and then use a little bit of sandpaper to kind of grind it clean. You'll also notice the EMC kit is not symmetrical. So the distance between this side, this corner here, and the Picatinny rail is slightly different. There you can see, right there. So it is not perfectly symmetrical. But that doesn't matter. The rail is pretty much dead center, so we're talking about a few millimeters. But that's just the interesting thing I noticed about this kit. There must be a reason for it. It probably has to do with the screw that goes right under the barrel on ETHA. Has to do with, I believe, pressure regulator. So what about eyes? So a lot of kids leave these eyes open, and you can, it doesn't matter. But I do prefer to close them up, and my solution to this would be this. So first thing you do is you get black, black epoxy, and fill the hole, the screw hole, and the space around the screw hole. Make sure you wash this thing with soap and then rinse it thoroughly, and then clean it and dry it, so there is absolutely no grease from your fingers or from anything else. And then roughen it up slightly with a Dremel tool on the inside, blow the dust out, and fill it full of epoxy. So to a point until it starts coming out here. You can put a piece of like a sticker or something so the epoxy doesn't come out. So this is the first step. The next step would be to glue the covers in, and you can see they float. So, and I've seen a bunch of kids, they would glue them in kind of sideways and it looks like shit. So position them correctly, and then use sticky tape, some sort of painter's tape, scotch, whatever, to duct tape to keep them in place. And you can probably make shims out of matches and insert matches all the way around, so that you have even space all the way around. Hey guys, just a bonus tutorial on how to glue in the eye covers that come with the EMC body kit that are designed for Planet Eclipse ETHA to prepare the body kit for Empire Axe. So the first step, as I mentioned in my previous video, is to fill the hole, the screw hole, and the space around it with epoxy. I recommend using 2-part JB Weld. You just mix those 50-50 and then stuff them in there and let them cure. So make sure that this thing is washed with soap, and the eye cover itself is washed with soap, that you don't touch it anywhere where the epoxy is going to come in contact with the plastic. You don't need to prepare the inner surface of the hole or the gap around the hole, because it has this kind of rough texture, so the epoxy would set into it. You don't want to use a sharp object like a sharpened match, maybe, or a toothpick to kind of jab the epoxy, stuff the epoxy into the hole. The other side where the hole is, you just want to put a piece of sticky tape so the epoxy doesn't come through the eye cover. So fill the hole, fill the space around it, and as I mentioned earlier, leave a little bit on top. So once it cures, then you can use a large file like this to sand it down. Just basically, grind this thing back and forth. Another option, which I've done, is easier way. If you have a oscillating sander, like electric sander, then you can put the piece of sandpaper on top, turn it on, flip it upside down, and just press the eye cover against the sandpaper and kind of rotate it. And that's another way of doing it. But you can do it by hand. It just takes a little bit longer time, or a little bit longer. Sorry. The black here is the epoxy is that gray color, so the black is from a Sharpie marker. It's a lazy way of doing it. My original plan was to prime it and then paint it with black paint, like automotive paint, some sort of acrylic spray on paint, but I don't have time for that. So you can see the shine comes from metallic particles in the epoxy. So like I said, the first step, you fill it, you let it cure, you sand it. The next step to be glue it into the body. So again, I recommend that Gorilla Glue. Don't use it because it does not adhere well to glass infused nylon. So even if you prepare it, if you roughen it up, it still doesn't work really well. If you just put a drop here, you can just peel it off. So don't use Gorilla Glue in this for this part. Do use JB Weld. So before you put this in, you have to prepare the hole and the eye cover itself for better adhesion. And the way you prepare them is you use a small file or a piece of sandpaper like this to sand to roughen up the inside of this hole. So imagine if this hole was this big hole, you would want to take a file and just basically do that all the way around. Really careful. You don't want to change the shape of the hole. You just want this surface here in the hole to be rough. So, and same thing on the basically, if this is the eye cover, the side wall of the eye cover is where you want it sanded as well. So use a piece of sandpaper and just go around. Make sure you, before you do any of that, make sure you wash this thing with soap. Make sure that there's no paint whatsoever on it, no grease, and wash your hands twice with in hot water with soap, so you have minimal amount of grease on your hands. And when you handle it, don't touch it where the epoxy is going to come in contact with this. Remember, you have to sand this flat before you glue this in, because after that, if you start sanding it here, you're going to scuff up the body. So this side has to be 100% finished before you continue. So once you prepared this and you painted it black, either using a Sharpie or some sort of paint, the next step would be to use sticky tape. You can use duct tape. I'm using this tape. This is Scotch tape with nylon strands in it. That prevents it from stretching, and I'll explain why. You want to position your eye cover this way. Apply the tape to the center of the eye cover. Make sure it's centered. And then glue it to the rest of the body. So, and as you can see, it's glued in right now, but if it wasn't, it would move because the tape doesn't stretch. So you want to use some sort of tape that doesn't stretch. Don't use electrical tape. You can probably use Scotch tape or packing tape, whatever you want to call it. But that's what you want to do. So you glue it in place, and that prevents it from moving. It'll still move in and out this way a little bit, but it's no big deal. So you can apply some pressure to it later. So once you flip it upside down, this is already filed off. The eye cover is going to stick out about this much into your body. So the next step would be to glue it. And the way you do it is you take a match, or you can use a Q-tip, but I recommend using a toothpick or a match, and sharpen it. Make like basically a chisel end, okay? And then you want to mix up your JB Weld and then place it around the eye cover, all the way around here. Make like a small bead about the diameter of this match. And then what you want to do, while holding the eye cover from behind, use this match and push the epoxy into the gap between the eye cover and the body. So when you go all the way around, and you keep going until you flip it upside down, and you look, you'll see a small amount, just a thin line of epoxy coming through. That means you're done on this side. So that means it's stuffed. Then once you start pushing it in, you're gonna have like basically a groove there in the epoxy. So you want to take nearby epoxy and just kind of scoop it over, so you have a nice ramp. So if this is the surface, this surface here of the body, and you have this side of the eye cover, the wall of the eye cover, you want a nice 45 degree bead of epoxy all the way around, and you let it cure for 24 hours this way. So you can apply some pressure, and you can put it on something soft like this to prevent the eye cover from popping out this way and more epoxy coming through around it and sticking out here. If it does start coming out, you want to wipe it right away, because once it cures, you can't get it out. It'll be very difficult to get it out of this groove. So, but you do need to have this. You want this tiny amount showing. You can paint that with some Sharpie as well, black later. But the point is that you want it coming out all the way around. That means you have nice bond between the two surfaces. So once you're done, once this thing is cured, then you have your eye cover sticking out. Like I said, it's going to stick by a 1/4 inch inside. Then after that, you use the Dremel tool, the one I mentioned in the previous video. Let me show you. So this is the bolt cutter I mentioned in the previous video. Let me see if I can refocus on this. Okay, so that's a bolt cutter. You can see it has about 6 or 7 blades. It's about 1/4 inch and just under 1/4 inch in diameter, and it's really aggressive. So the way you do it is you can. I recommend using this sort of remote pencil with your Dremel. If you don't have it, that's fine. But the way you do it is you would hold your body kit this way, and then you would score lines one by one, taking off about 3-4 millimeters at a time, and you keep going. One pass, second pass, third pass, and it's important that you hold it this way. You put your thumb here because it's going to try to slip all over the place. That's the most difficult part. So, and it takes about maybe 5 minutes per side to do this. So once you score it all out, after you do a couple of passes, flip it around, make sure you're not overdoing it, because all you need is this eye cover to be ground flush with the rest of the body, which it is here. So once you grind it flush, you can stop there. I went a little further. What I did is, I know it looks ugly, but what I did, I put really paper thin layer of epoxy, and what this does, it just seals up all the little air bubbles that were left on this side after sanding. So you can see there's a little bubble there. You know, you might have some bubbles here or in your eye, in your screw hole, and so on. So just a really thin layer. You know, you can sand that later again. I'm gonna leave it as this. This just prevents the paint. If the paint gets in there, I don't want paint get stuck inside bubbles in the epoxy, just for cleaning purposes. I'm just being anal. So, but that's it. So and you can see it's this has been cured for 24 hours. You can see again that tiny bead there. It looks a lot on camera, but it's very small amount. And again, here let me use a Sharpie and so you can see once this dries, it's not going to be shiny anymore, and it's going to be there's that matte color. And I need a Sharpie pen. The Sharpie marker is not thin enough. Go with the Sharpie pen all the way around, and you'll have your black. You know, you can use black epoxy actually and fill that all around, but then it's going to be messy. If you start sanding this, you're going to ruin the texture, and it's going to look like shit. So, anyways, the point is, if you do it that way, like I said, make sure the eye cover is sanded, the hole is sanded so it's rough for the epoxy to stick. Make sure you push the epoxy into the gap between the eye cover and the body, and once it's all cures, you can that crack was actually from the body itself, not from here. So because you can see I can twist it, and I'm deforming it, and it's not coming out. So again, really strong. I can push really hard and it will not come out. So if you get shot in here, no big deal. This will survive many shots without coming off at all. Plus you're not going to have that huge of a deformation once you put this together. So anyways, this is how you properly cover up the holes from the eye covers from ETHA to prepare this for the axe, Empire axe. So once you put this together, that's how you prepare the EMC body kit for Empire axe. And I'll show you a couple neat mods again. So just a sneak peek at my MagFed. This is A5 buttstock air, internal air, so you can see there's no hoses or tubes anywhere, and it's DMag So it shoots, it's first strike ready. It shoots first strikes, regular paintballs. Has Lapco, the Lapco insert for whatchamacallit, cocker threaded barrels. So you have the barrel in it is cocker threaded barrel. Anyways, it's just a sneak peek at what's coming in the future. See you later.